Brian R. Johnson. 4 years later.
4 years later.
4 years later, you're on episode 501. I mean, you're looking more handsome, sexier than ever, if I may say that. I need to know you're moisturizing.
I don't think I've aged well the last 4 years.
Is it a filter? Is it lighting? What is it, man? Welcome back to the Sales Podcast. How the heck are you?
I am fantastic. Glad to have me back on.
So I was scrolling through the interwebs over the new year and like, man, I haven't talked to Brian in a while. You're doing some stuff in the AI space now, right?
Yeah.
So so catch us up on the last 4 years. What led this transition? And because this is pretty new, right?
Yeah, no, it is. I discovered ChatGPT. No, I'm kidding. This is before ChatGPT even came out. So my journey, I guess, to quick frame, I guess, is this is my 17th year in e-commerce and my 10th /
I thought you were going to say this is your 17th business. And I was like, what?
That's probably also true, but
all right.
I've had 5 within the Amazon space alone. So,
oh man.
3 of those did very well. And this, I guess, would be my 6th one. So this one is yet to be determined, although we are starting to get product market fit and starting to grow. But yeah, about 17 years in e-commerce, about 10, we'll just say 10 years in the Amazon space. Started out with, I always sold product on Amazon in parallel, but minor compared to just providing solutions. PPC software was my first, technically my second software in the Amazon space. And then I moved on, diversified more, got into more of the training side where I had like a full course, and did very well with that. And then launched an advertising agency. Each of these had different partners, but advertising agency. That agency is now just killing it. You know, they're one of the top 5, top 10 agencies in the world for Amazon. So it's doing great. But I've started working on this new project, which is, yes, there's AI in it, in that we use deep learning models on the back end to analyze and crunch, a huge amount of data that we collect. So this particular project, which we call DeepM.ai for Deep Marketplace, is specifically for organic rank analysis on Amazon. Specifically, we call it more like competitive ranking intelligence. I exited my last 3 companies, which were primarily focused around sponsored ads and PPC ad spend on Amazon. Kind of hit me, too many times, like, okay, this is just getting more and more expensive, as I always expected it would. And I need to find a better way. And I happened to partner up with somebody who also had the same mindset of, let's look at this all over again. Let's start over. Let's look at everything from a data standpoint, but let's focus in on how Amazon's search algorithm, what they call A9, how it, I guess, chooses who to rank for different search terms. Short story long is we came up with a data collection system and algorithm that allowed us to reverse engineer a good portion of how A9 sorts products, and
call it A9
from that.
Is that what you call it?
Yeah, A9. So it's not a version number. So it is simply just the word algorithm. The number of letters in the word algorithm is 9. Amazon also has a tracking system called A8, and tracking is 8 characters. Everybody thinks there's a lot of people who think that it's a version number, and somehow there's going to be an A10 out there. It's like, no, that's not.
Algorithm is one of those words I literally never know how to spell. Thank God for spell checker. Algorithm and rhythm. I'm like RYHHY.
Right.
I don't know. Google
WYM. Is there an N at the end? I don't.
Lee, I've got a mental block on that, and I'm 54, and I think I'll die not knowing how to spell those words. But hey, I got spell checker. When the red squiggly's there, I'm like, hey, I should probably check that word. But I digress.
That's how I do it.
Yeah. So that's cool. And you know what? I mean, kudos to you for staying relatively in your lane, right? I mean, I see people all the time. yeah, I killed it in Amazon. Now I'm doing this AI stuff, for radiologists, and we're breaking into the medical space. Like, what? It's like, why don't you just keep going deeper and wider in what you know?
Yeah. Well, that's kind of what we're doing too, is that we start back in and we're in the backyard that we know, which is Amazon. We're currently in beta. And so it is specifically for the Amazon US marketplace, but the same model, we're actually working on getting these patented, which is a fun journey. Not.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it actually applies to any marketplace, any e-commerce marketplace that has a search engine. So Walmart, TikTok, Temu, Mercado Libre, you name it. So the same thing. So this will branch out. That's kind of our width that we're going after it is a multi-channel, multi-marketplace solution.
So you think this whole World Wide Web experiment is going to stick around? Is that what you're saying?
No. We'll see. We got to give it
All
a few
right.
years. Well, I honestly, I mean, I think just from a just a technology standpoint, it's that old phrase is like, the more things change, the more they stay the same.
Yeah.
There's a whole lot of like incremental, like big leaps forward in certain things. And there's other things like, why hasn't this changed? Given all the technology that's available, why hasn't this changed in the last, 1 year, 5 years, whatever?
Yeah.
So I think there's, it's just anytime you've got any kind of an industry or technology change or cultural change, there's always a massive amount of opportunity. But do you see that opportunity on the front end, or do you try to catch up when everybody else has figured it out? And that's how I used to play the game of I'd try to catch up and I was too late. I'd get on the back end. It's like, oh, that's not working anymore. It's like, dang it, got on the back end of this and now I'm too late, right? Is there still opportunity to make it work if you've got good work ethic? Absolutely. But I'm an innovator. I'm a solution, creator. So I've got to look on the bleeding edge and try to figure out. In other words, I got to try to build stuff that doesn't exist, that people don't even know can exist, only to have competitors come in and copy me later.
Yeah.
That's the reality, but I actually do love the space all the same.
Yeah. And, hey, again, kudos. If you know what lights your fire, then run with that, because you can guess wrong, right? I mean, being that bleeding edge, it's called bleeding edge for a reason. I mean, you're going to bleed sometimes. There was a debate not too long ago, a guy, I think it was on LinkedIn, talking about, Apple sucks. They don't innovate, blah, blah. They don't invent anything anymore. I'm like, dude, they've hardly ever invented anything. They just make stuff better, and clearly there's nothing wrong with that. I think they're going to hit $4 trillion in valuation this year.
Yep.
So
it's a model that works.
So figure out what motivates you and go down that path. I'm not you. I'm not going to go invent something. I'm trying to improve processes. I'm trying to improve the CRM experience. I'm trying to improve sales methodology. I'm rolling out a direct mail offering, a local direct mail offering, like right now. For my neighborhood, for my, my region. Because again, what's old is new. People are so overwhelmed trying to keep up.
I've spent my whole life just trying to figure out, it's like, okay, what am I passionate about? What am I good at? What's my superpower? All that kind of stuff. And frankly, there's some things that the higher value comes in recognizing what you suck at, and getting away from that as quick as possible. And, but the problem with that is you don't just go like, you know what? I don't like math, and so I'm not going to do math things. Well,
I suck at jujitsu and I keep doing it.
Right.
But I digress.
Well, I mean, like it's the same kind of claim to fame as I was like, well, somebody finds out, it's like, oh, you got a black belt in karate. It's like, no, I had a black belt in karate 30 years ago. There's a big difference.
Yeah.
So no, I was gonna say is like it's, like there's some things that I do not do well at, and some of these are some of the operational cadence, making sure that every single thing, in other words, I'll build systems in order to audit, to look for mistakes that were made or breaks in the process and that kind of stuff. But if I am given a checklist and say, you need to do this every single day, I will
Oh,
absolutely fail.
shoot
Not
me
gonna
in the
happen.
head.
Yeah.
Yes, I agree. I'm the same way.
The same thing goes with, do I like marketing? Yes, I love marketing. Absolutely love it. Am I good at it? No, not necessarily. But I keep doing it because I have to, because I don't have anybody else in place that's better, that
Yeah.
can step in. But it is, the goal is to identify what your individual superpower is
Yeah.
and lean into that as hard as you can.
So how did you figure that out? I mean, yeah, a lot of pain.
I've I
I
never
mean,
considered myself creative. I always thought myself as quasi-engineer, an engineering mindset. I would always, there's kind of a joke that I had with my old partners, like, yeah, you could be at dinner with Brian and you ask him to pass the salt shaker, and he won't just pass you the salt shaker. He'll think in his head, like, how can I build a crane system that will pick it up and, you know, like way oversolve, right? And so, yes, I've got the capability to overthink, to oversolve, to over-engineer, but and I can come up with some very creative. I can see things that apparently not everybody can see. I don't want to say I'm exclusive, but that not everybody sees, as far as an opportunity, as far as a missing feature, as far as some kind of benefit or presenting it. Kind of the Steve Jobs piece of it's like, his demand for multiple fonts was not just to be different, but to make an aesthetic experience for the user. And so my design skills from a UI standpoint may suck, but I know that I need to keep on making it better iteratively, whatever it is now, because it's never going to be good enough. It's too mechanical. It's too spreadsheets, that kind of stuff.
yeah.
But ultimately the things that, as far as like operations, as far as marketing, as far as the daily, cadence of, step-by-step kind of routine, I failed. It wasn't just that I failed enough times doing those things, thinking that I could. I'm smart enough. I'm capable enough. I can do it. It is when it really causes pain, when it really causes damage, as in, you really screw something up and and an account fires you, a client fires you that was worth, $40,000, and they fire you because we didn't execute. Nobody else blamed but me. And then you do that a couple more times. And you're like, okay, the problem is me, clearly. Like I did not fix this after the first time or the second time. And now here I'm on the third time. Clearly I'm the problem. I need to move out of the way. And I need to recognize what I'm passionate about and what I keep coming back and wanting to do, and where I actually have some brilliant ideas and some good ideas, and lean into that. And then try to support those who are actually capable in the areas that I suck at. So pain.
It's not your fault, Brian. The Jupiter was not in alignment with Saturn, and the referee, he's friends with that other player. No, it's not your fault. I got a trophy. Here's a cup of coffee. Most people won't accept that, man. It's like they're never wrong.
No, that's unfortunately, the world is full of people who will give participation ribbons when it's not deserved.
Oh, like LA fires, but don't get me started on that. All right, look, squirrel. Man, so were you ever an employee? Like, how'd you make that transition into having your own thing?
Well, I mean, I've been in e-commerce for 17 years, but every year before that, I was an employee of some Fortune 500 company. I was in
17 years. So, I mean, you're 35, right? So since 18?
Yes. Yeah. Since I was 18, let's go with that. Yeah. I turned 55 last month. So,
woo!
Yeah, it's been a while. It's been a few decades here. Yeah, I probably spent a good, 20, I don't know, probably a good 20 years. I'm just ballparking here, 20 years in Fortune 500, plenty of cubicle, cubicle farms, where I had my nice little,
Were you in
8x8.
sales or operations or what?
I was actually I've done a number of things. So I've been, in Fortune 500, I've been like business analyst. I've been like network engineer. I've been, um, you know, web programmer, web programming, scripting, in junior management and middle management, typically for technical groups, for technical departments. I've done technical contract negotiation with international travel companies. I've uh, yeah, I've been kind of all over the board. Mostly, it's been a technical base, and that's kind of where I probably reinforced the belief that I wasn't capable of creativity. But as I've learned is that if you continue to work on something, you will get better. Will you be the greatest? No. That is unlikely, but you can certainly get better than what you are now. And so that's kind of where, like, I don't consume everything that Alex Hormozy states.
Good.
But there are some gems that he puts together sometimes that really sink in pretty hard, and some of that is just the fact of like, look, if you're not, part of skating to where the puck is going to be is not simply just being a better innovator and creating technology in a business and doing all the marketing in order to get you there. You've got to change to be the person you need to be to where you're trying to get to also. And if you're not addressing that, it will all fall apart.
Yeah.
Paraphrasing pretty heavily there. But he's got some really good points is I'll try to outwork technical problems, marketing, sales, problems, all this. But ultimately if it's counter to my superpowers that I've recognized that I have finally recognized that I have, and I just don't have some of the personality skills, some of the personal skills and personality that are needed for that future role, then I'm just setting myself up for failure if I don't start doing some kind of preparation on a regular basis in order to get me there, in addition to getting my business there.
Yeah.
And I always dismiss that as like woo woo. It's like, okay, what do you want to do? You're like, you want me to do meditation and yoga and all this kind of stuff? It's like,
It's all
no.
sound bowls. You
Just
need
read a
sound
book.
bowls. And it's burning incense, but I don't have incense, but I do have my King of Farts soy candle. Okay, so that gets me in the right mindset. But I digress.
I've got a friend of mine who sells him and his wife are the owners of a scent and candle company called Wax and Wit. And one of their candles is designed to, it's like a black candle and you put it in your bathroom and the label says like, please don't smoke meth in my bathroom.
Nice.
This is paraphrasing as far as what that is, but yeah, they've got a humorous line from Wax and Wit. Yeah, those are great.
Well, yeah, you bring up a good point, with what Hormozy's talking about. It's like, God doesn't answer prayers. Yeah, he does. He just says no a lot.
It's just,
it's like
I
you're
love that.
17 years old, right? I want to be the greatest singer ever. It's like, if I just picked you up and say, okay, great, you're going to sing at the halftime of the Super Bowl in, 3 weeks, it would crush you under the weight. And it would become the worst thing ever in your life. It's like, no.
Yep.
It's like, go sing the county fair, go sing your high school prom, pay your dues. Now, it doesn't mean it's got to take 30 years, but maybe it'll take 3 years or 5 years, then you're ready for the Super Bowl.
Right.
But it's like, you got to get ready. I tell people all the time, I need more leads. Okay. Let's say I give you 100 leads. Let's say I give you 1,000. 1,000 of the best. Let's say I give you 100 of the best, most qualified prospects, ready, willing, and able to buy. They're your dream clients. Can you handle them right now? Like, no. It's like, okay. So do you really want more leads? You prepared to handle them. You have the systems in place. I mean, everything is interrelated. So I geek out like you a little bit, right? It's like, let's work on the processes and the conversion. Once you've got all that dialed in, then it's just a math problem. Now you know your conversions. Go ahead, ramp up your marketing. You can handle them, but everybody's impatient. You're like,
Well, I
want
mean,
it
we
now.
run into that. We run into that too. Like we'll have something that will just catch fire for a while, for a few weeks, and we'll get flooded. And I look at that as an opportunity because I know from experience this will break something. We will stumble. We will embarrass ourselves somehow. But that is an opportunity to fix whatever that thing is before we get to some other thing that works twice as well or 10 times as well.
Yeah.
So I look at that as I know it's going to happen, not to be a pessimist, but I know something's going to break because, it just hasn't had enough time to get refined, and it gets refined through pain and fire, and that's cool.
Yeah.
Give me a trickle of new leads right now so that I can solve the basic problems so that I don't crush under the pressure when I'm asked to sing at halftime of the Super Bowl.
Right. Yeah. I tell people all the time, I do my best proofreading in the 2.3 nanoseconds after I hit send, like, oh, damn it, bad link. Oh, like, why didn't I see that? You got to launch. But that's why restaurants have a soft opening. Come on in. It's 50% off, maybe free, right? We got to see what's our flow. Is the oven working? Let's test everything under, semi realistic scenarios and make sure we can handle it. Because it's like anything. I was a stockbroker for a while, and people are great on paper. You say, okay, let's put $100 down and try it. Woo, they nut up, man. We'll role play phone call, cold calling. It's okay. Now really dial the phone. Here's I got a guy, a CPO, Brian R. Johnson. Yeah, deepm.ai. Give him a call.
Yeah, I can tell you, my chest just goes clinch. It's like okay, pick up the phone and dial. It's kind of like. But
dude, we had to, when I was a stockbroker, we had 2 weeks of training, and we had this old rusty Army drill sergeant. This was 1997, and he was like the only guy in the whole building that was allowed to smoke, and he chain smoked. And we had this auditorium, like 25 or 30 new brokers, and we had to go out. He had a little auditorium, and we had to go into a cubicle in another part of the office and cold call him on speaker in front of the whole class, dude. That'll make you tough.
yeah.
Woo! So I kind of lost my fear of cold calling at that point, man. It was a grueling 2 weeks, and then we had boiler rooms, right? We on the second week, at night we would call, like, I don't know, it was like 5 to 7, something like a couple of hours. We're all in cubicles, and he's walking up and down listening to us, and we had to be smiling and dialing, baby.
Yeah,
make it tough.
Well, and that's a very good point. Is you either tough or you fail.
Yeah.
You toughen up or you fail. If you don't get through that, the first challenge is you're just getting past the mindset that like, oh, I don't want to do that. I can't do that. I'm not a good at whatever. It doesn't matter if it's cold calling or anything else that somebody fears and they avoid consciously or subconsciously until they, if they're the ones who are going to make it happen in a need in the company, for instance, whether that's like, okay, you know what, there's 4 people in the company, and therefore somebody's got to do this, and you're the one, Brian, and you've got to pick up and you've got to call out to all these, CEOs of agencies and brands and all that kind of stuff. I'm like, this is really going to hurt, but I don't have a choice. I've got to do it. And I know that it'll get better, even though it may not ever get comfortable.
Can you hold up your hands? Do you have all of your digits? Did you ever get them bitten off? Did anybody like chew your ass? Is your ass gone, or like have you survived?
No, it's well, I mean, some say it's like, well, you might lose your hair, from pulling your hair out. I've never experienced that, but I know that there's been cases where, and this is part of like the whole like the failure, moments of stumbling, moments of failure, that you learn from. There's been times when I was driving home from my office and I was like screaming at the top of my lungs, not at anybody else but myself.
Yeah.
Just out of frustration. And the next day my voice was hoarse because I strained my vocal cords because I just, so I didn't bite off any fingernails, but I certainly have attempted to damage myself in the process. But
Damn.
I try to avoid picking up the phone and calling people directly. Every chance I get, I try to avoid it, and I know that is hurting me. I know it is.
Well, but is that
I
your
could do
job?
so much more.
I mean, you're in development, right? Operation?
Exactly. And I've got a friend of mine that is, he's got no problem picking up the phone and doing the intro calls and all that kind of stuff. And he does a phenomenal job. I just, I need 2 or 3 more just like him, that can, and on one side, it's like, okay, I've got to solve for bringing in some, turning, a cold email system into leads, or, a LinkedIn service into leads, that he can simply just like, okay, I'm just booking intros. He doesn't necessarily need to do the call outs, but, the reality is I've been told this by a friend. It's like, look, if you're not picking up the phone yourself and calling, you're not doing what you need for your company. And I battle with that. Like, oh, I should be doing it, but I'm not. Like, I know where my superpower is, and I know that I could train myself to do that, but apparently I haven't experienced enough pain in order to say, okay, I need to drop everything else and pick up the phone.
Well, so who's ideal for you, and what is working today?
Well, I mean, mostly for what we're focused on right now, of course, is brands that sell on Amazon US, sell a product on Amazon US, or the agencies that help them. Because ultimately what we deliver is a level of insight unlike anything on the market that allows a brand or their agency to say, okay, we can actually get you ranked in Amazon search engine for any search term that you want against any competitor that you have. Now, whether it makes sense to actually pursue that, because there's always a varying degree of, cost, efforts, time, what are you willing to sacrifice in order to get that? That is, with designed to get there and stick there, to stay there. It's not a temporary gimmick. It's a get there to stay there. I can beat any brand for any product for any search term on Amazon. I've got that capability, but we also have to present, it's like, okay, here's a collection of ranking targets that you should go after because it makes sense, because it's easy to get there. You've got weak competition on these specific search terms. You've got everything, in your power and your brand and your product's capability in order to rank there. You just didn't know you could. And we're telling you that you can, here's how to do it.
Right.
And so it's a big challenge of educating brands and their agencies that this level of competitive intelligence exists, and the A9 is not, the A9 algorithm is not as big of a black box as it used to be.
Yeah.
So there's endless amount of data science and fascination and engineering that goes into this, and we constantly, move it forward. But ultimately the end result is, hey, let's get you highly visible in organic search so that you don't have to spend as much on promotions and ad spend in order to get there. Right. Stop complaining that Chinese competitors came in and ate your lunch. Beat them where they're not.
Mm-hmm.
Which is not a Sun Tzu quote, but there's
should be. I'm sure it's based on a Sun Tzu quote.
Which doesn't actually mean that.
It's based on a Rommel quote, which was based on Sun Tzu. All right. So
that's right. Yeah. The Rommel quote would be more of, Blitzkrieg method, right?
Yeah. And I think it was Stalin. I always get them mixed up, Lenin and Stalin, but, he said, quantity has a quality all its own.
Yeah. Brute force. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, it's, if you're not smart enough, then you got to brute force it,
Hey, Well, I love jujitsu. People, I just got my 4th stripe on my brown belt.
That's
So
awesome.
should hit black belt this year, be almost 9 years. And
Congratulations.
thank you. But the guys are like, I'll be wrong with them. Oh, you're just so big. I'm like, people, they don't realize what they're saying. 'Cause it's like you're saying, I have no technique, no ability, no cardio, no stamina. I just beat you only because I'm bigger than you.
They're discounting the fact that at 54, you're fighting through joint pain, through flexibility pain, through stamina pain.
Constant.
You're trying to overcome more than they even have, than they even
Oh,
appreciate
no
exists.
idea.
Yet, they're like, oh, it's because your size. It's like, you got,
Well, and they're not saying it mean. I mean, these are friends, right? They're like, man, you're just so big. This one guy, I love him to death. He's a great guy. And he's about my age. And I think he just got a purple belt. He's always, hey, you're just so big. I'm like, bro, stop saying that. Because smaller black belts beat me all the time.
when I was training for, I was going through karate, freestyle karate, and my buddy was my training partner, of course, and he was an inch taller than me, but it wasn't the inch difference. His timing was way better than mine. Like his timing and his work ethic. Let me give him more credit than that. So his timing won him tournaments all the time. Like he didn't have enough shelf space for all the trophies he got. Frankly, it pissed me off at the time, but it wasn't because it was simply just because I wasn't at his level. He had the timing, but part of that also was the fact that I'd go in and say like, yeah, I train 3 times a week, down at, our local club. And it's like, what did you do? It's like, oh, where were you yesterday? So it's like, oh, I drove out to the other club across town to spar with new people on my days off from the local club. It's like, oh shit, he's trying. Yeah, he's out working me also. He
Yeah.
consistently did that for 3-4 years.
Yeah.
So it wasn't, we got our black belts at the same time, but he was, put us in the ring. He would beat me every time.
Right.
Just no question.
Yeah. People don't understand. I mean, there's levels, and I remember I was maybe a senior blue belt, and a black belt in our school system came down from Chicago and did a session, and I was standing by one of the black belts. She's like, man, I've never seen that. And I remember like being truly amazed. I'm like, you're a black belt. There are things you haven't seen. Like that still didn't like quite compute, It's like I thought you knew everything by the time you got to be a black belt. And I'm looking at this and I'm like, maybe I should take 8 more years before I get my black belt, because I feel like there's more I do not know than what I do.
Well, you've seen plenty of people at tournaments, that have been brown belts for 15 years.
Yeah.
It wasn't because they couldn't get a black belt. It's because they compete better at the brown belt level. They walk all over everybody.
Oh, there's a lot of that. And hey, I mean, if that's their game, right? I mean, if they're going to become, if they want to make it a lifestyle and own a school and whatever, having those trophies certainly helps. So I'm like, hey, whatever, knock yourself out. And the old school guys, I mean, my instructor, he's Brazilian, but he didn't start till he was about 18 or 19, and we're under the Gracies. And of course they start at birth, but, starting so young and getting after it, he flies around the world to compete. And I'm like, I won't even travel to LA to compete. It's like, I'm a grandpa. It's like, I don't know. I just started too late. And I don't want to get hurt. I don't want to fight Al Bundy, who actually literally is a black belt. But, some dude living in the past still has a picture of his high school football team as his Facebook profile. If, 240 pounds wants to try to do some flying armbar on me and, something stupid and get hurt. I mean, that's all I can envision. Like, I don't know. I think I'll be satisfied being good at my school.
There you go. No, I love that. I love that you keep after it.
Yeah, I'm addicted. So, man, who should reach out to you? I mean, you mentioned marketing agencies, but is it better
I
for
mean,
an
mostly
owner,
it's going to be the
an
brands.
operator, or somebody like in operations at at a large e-commerce type
It just,
vendor?
sometimes it doesn't even have to be like, say, when it comes to like third party sellers who are product brand, product and brand owners. I've like one of our clients, he's got one product and he does, I don't know, $7-8 million a year on Amazon with one product. And it seems like it's a pretty niche product. So sometimes you've got, brand owners, like they're the chief cook and bottle washer, they do this, they're wearing too many hats within their own company. It's because they've only got one product. They don't have like a whole portfolio of products. And you've got others that have, the largest one we worked with had 65,000 SKUs,
Oh my gosh.
jewelry, right? And one of the most, like, from they do like TV, 24/7 TV commercials, selling their jewelry and that kind of stuff. And they're up in Austin, actually. And but just trying to organize that many SKUs, they're very disorganized, and sometimes, so there's companies that have a larger inventory that they sell on Amazon. There's those that have, single product. It's really more about those that are, have gotten a product to market fit of their product or their product line, the catalog, where ideally they've been selling for at least a few months consistently, and it's time for them to up their game. We're not, we're still in beta, so our fees are relatively low compared to what they will probably be in the future.
Mm-hmm.
Probably any brand that sells, I don't know, even 10, 20,000 a month on Amazon would probably be a good fit. And that's not necessarily about like being able to afford fees. That's about, do you have enough attention from Amazon already that we can leverage? Is there enough data for us to collect,
Right.
to analyze, to figure out what's the secret sauce specific to your product niche?
Yeah.
So I would say the owners of brands, it may be the CEOs, but oftentimes, they're all over the place. They could say, hey, I'm the channel manager, or I'm the Amazon, marketing director, or I'm the e-commerce, VP, or I'm the CEO, or whatever. Right. And so the titles, that's something that's been fairly elusive on things like LinkedIn, is titles for product brand owners all over the board.
Yeah.
As you've got little mom and pop shops and say, hey,
Sure.
I'm the founder. Cool. There's only, 50 billion of you on LinkedIn.
Yeah. So let me ask you this:
titles.
would they? Let's say you get that 20 grand a month, 40 grand a month. So they're doing okay. Would they divert marketing funds to your tool?
Yeah, a little bit.
Okay.
Usually it's in terms, like, we still use things like PPC advertising as a vehicle to increase some other metric that the search algorithm appreciates, that they want to see. Most brands don't know. We didn't even know this before we started doing the data research, is that every single product niche on Amazon has a different profile. In other words, the A9 search algorithm says, like, okay, what's important to me in this category is completely different than what's important to me in this other category, this other product. Price, review rating, that kind of stuff may be important in one, and the bullet point optimization may be king in another. And we used to think that it's like, oh, it's a one size fits all. And it completely varies from one product niche to the next.
Yeah.
And understanding, okay, there can be 100 different things that you can optimize, but here's the 8 that you really need to optimize. You really need to focus all your attention on these 8 out of 100, as opposed to just kind of doing general practices that are a one size fits all for everything. we identify what is unique to that product niche, and then we leverage that to say, here's where your competitors are weak and you're strong on all of these for the audience you're trying to go after. So we exploit those missed opportunities. We don't work on generalities. We work on very minute details that make a difference. And that is what gives us the power to beat anybody on Amazon. Now, can they outwork us? Can they outspend us? Yes. But we at least know precisely what we would need to do in order to beat, which is usually a black box for most brands, is they don't know, like, why am I not ranking as well as a competitor? Why are they outselling me? They must be doing some black hat. They must be undercutting me in price. It's like, yeah, sorry, that's not, often that's not the case. You're just not doing what you need to do where you need to do it because you're blind to it. You haven't looked at enough data to tell you the story of what fits for your specific product.
What is going on in Amazon's head? Because at the end of the day, like, they're sitting up there and they're like, okay, we just want people to be selling stuff and we get our commissions from, the override of the sale. Okay. But now you and I are both selling, fart candles, and you're doing it organically. I'm running ads. It would seem to me that Amazon might always rank me a little bit above you because they're double dipping, right? I'm paying for the ads and they're getting the same override. Is that it? Am I thinking clearly?
That absolutely happens. There are some things where we've got a number of hypotheticals, where we're trying to determine, okay, what if a sale from a sponsored purchase doesn't have more or less value than an organic purchase, right? And those are things that, we can speculate and we can observe and we can test, but ultimately it turns out it's going to vary from one niche to another. So sometimes it's kind of hard to pin down. Yes, in fact, they absolutely are enjoying the fact that they can double dip. They've been increasing fees in a number of areas and allowing longer returns. And here's an example on that specific one. This statistic I heard, I think just this morning, in fact, is that I want to say for Q4, Amazon did something like $288 billion in sales on Amazon US. Over $100 billion of that was returned by consumers because of Amazon's 30-day return policy, no questions asked.
And it being Christmas,
yeah. And so see, over $100 billion in returns out of $300 billion in sales. Like a
482 million of that was my wife, but you see that meme? Said here's a picture of my wife's Amazon delivery, and it's a big container ship with the rail cars.
I think that what's in Amazon's head is it was always their plan that on the beginning they were going to lose money for the first 10 years or so in order to establish the new standard to gain heavy amount of market share. And now they're trying to recoup those costs, especially because inflation and because just general costs have gone up, is now they're saying, it's like, look, it no longer makes sense for us to just build an unending number of new warehouses to ship an unending number of product because the risk is too high that some new competitor is going to come in and we won't have enough to fill all those warehouses. Right now they're over capacity, so they can raise fees and they can push away sellers and products. We've got too many products, in other words. We can't move them all. It takes weeks and weeks in order to get a pallet or a truck checked into an Amazon warehouse anymore because they just have too much volume. So if they increase pricing, it reduces the strain on the overall system, and it reduces their risks where they don't need to just build out massive amount of new warehouses, because the risk is that if something in the market changes, some new competitor like a TikTok comes in, just kills it, and all of a sudden all of their thousands of warehouses are at 50% capacity. Oh, now what? Now we've bit off more than we can chew. What do we do about it?
Just make indoor pickleball courts.
Right. Yeah. I mean, yeah. And that model is not, there's been plenty of business models that have overpopulated, spread out
Sure.
too fast.
Sure.
And then they realize, overproduced. Look at back at like, how many warehouses are full of complete columns of Texas Hold'em chips. There was a big fad, and then
it was up in like Plano, Richardson area. It was around like 2002. I was in the telecom space, test and measurement, and MCI WorldCom. They were a client, and I walked into their call center. 3 people in this, like, I don't know what. It's a warehouse full, cubicles. And because of insurance, they had to keep humans there. It couldn't be unoccupied, like 3 people, and it used to house 3,000 or 5,000, some ungodly number. And, so after the dot-com collapse, so, it happens in everything, so.
Yeah, look at the American shopping mall,
Yeah.
like it's, in general, with a few exceptions, it's a dead business model. Now, what do you do with all the real estate? I see, dog race tracks getting leveled so they can put a hospital system in place. Change of culture and generation.
Yep, it happens.
Yeah. So, it's
keep your eyes open.
Yeah. Plus the difficulty certainly of trying to get more and more. Ultimately, I remember many years ago, I worked for, this was pre 9/11. So this is back in 2000. I worked for a company that did like a lot of like electronic parts warehousing and shipping. And they had this massive warehouse that had 2 people in it. And both of them were engineers. And they maintained all the automated robotic systems. This was back in 2000. Fully automated parts, pack and ship, warehouse. There's no reason why Amazon couldn't do that. Well before all of this new technology of the AI robotics, AI-powered robotics, they have that ability, but historically it's had a very high cost to it. And so now, who's to say is like, it would make sense that if they're going to retool and create warehouses, then they're probably going to be these massive complex. Think of things like the Tesla plants. They're just like massive pieces of real estate that you can see from space. Kind of a dumb statement given that satellites can now, read what time it is on your watch.
A human in the space shuttle can look down and see it from space.
Right. There you go. But there's no reason why, the warehouse of the future won't simply just be this, above ground thing with a massive amount of parking. It's going to be some multi-level, fully automated thing where, truck trailers, shipping container trailers are dropped off in some queue, and the truck drivers leave, and then some automated system comes in and picks it up, pulls it in there, distributes it, organizes it, tests it, whatever. And, it's 4 levels underground, and fully robotic. That kind of stuff could happen. It would be a massive investment in order to happen, but certainly the technology is there to do that already.
We got a shift coming. My 10-year-old daughter, man, it was this summer. My son came home, and he's super smart, computer science degree, stays abreast of these things, and had us buy a 3D printer. And my 10-year-old daughter is making the coolest things.
Yeah.
And so for Christmas, there's this, it's like a Christmas tree looking sort of thing, kind of a conical shape, but it's 2 pieces. So you can drop one onto the other from the top, from the pointy end, and it spirals down. You can lift it up and it comes out the bottom. So it prints it in 2 pieces.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
And it's this mesh thing, right? This spiral but it is so precise that it spins down, locks into place. So she made these for everybody in the family. Several people. White elephant, or what's the Secret Santa?
Yeah.
So she got a couple of siblings and whatever, and so she would color just with a marker, just one of them. So it's like a swirl ice cream cone, but this thing, it is so cool. And a 10-year-old is printing these at home, right?
Right.
So I'm like, okay, the future is here. And
We're seeing them build houses with that too.
oh yeah, it's so cool. That thing is like squeezes out like a tube of toothpaste. It just makes the walls. And so, and now here I am going door to door to small businesses, and we're doing postcards.
But postcards that's the counter to
Yeah.
banner blindness. People have gotten so used to one kind of marketing that if you go old school, it stands out.
Yeah. Because everybody's overwhelmed. I make the joke. 15 years ago, it was you would hire a VA to create all these emails, and I would hire a VA to read all the emails and delete them. So the only people that really made money were the VAs. And now AI. So you got AI to, create a year's worth of email in 5 minutes. And now I have an AI to delete all those emails. So still, how do you reach the human? We keep forgetting there's a human on the other end of the screen.
Right. Currently.
Well, at the end of the day, that's who we're trying to authorize
That's
purchase.
something that is actually kind of interesting is that with, we just recently upgraded to the iPhone 16 with the Apple Intelligence. And one of the features on there that I stumbled across was the ability for it to, analyze your emails, and summarize your emails, right? And so I was looking at that, so it's like, we send out, cold emails all the time, and some of them are short and some of them are long. It's like, I wonder for anybody who's using this summarize feature, how is it translating our message to them? Because it'll only come up like, here's one sentence about what this whole email is about. Is it a compelling? Is it like a meh kind of sentence? In other words, how do I then craft my emails so that the Apple Intelligence or any AI is going to translate that into something that is a hook that is compelling, as opposed to, is it a watered down version of what I was trying to get across? There's probably plenty of testing that can be done.
Will it read your Gmail or just Apple Mail?
This is Gmail. These are all Gmail accounts that I'm using.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I'm still on the 12. It's the longest I've ever had a phone. It just keeps working.
I had a 13. Yeah. So yeah, it's. I wouldn't say that it's any better. It just has a couple of new whiz bang things on it and more buttons and stuff.
Yeah. It just keeps working. So I'll probably get it soon. My biggest thing is the plugs, right? I got my AirPods. These still have the lightning. It's like, and my wife, we have to all upgrade or we're all going to won't have cords.
Right.
When we're traveling, when we're driving, but yeah.
Yeah, I was finding that I was having to, until I got a replacement cord, I was using my laptop, USB-C to charge my phone. It's like, yeah, it works.
Yeah, for sure. Well, cool, man. I am linking out to you. I've got your deepm.ai. I'm linking out to your LinkedIn as well.
Thank you.
And we will connect as well to the episode 501. And we will send the marketers, the operators, the founders, the geniuses, the people that are tired of suffering.
There you go.
On Amazon. Your way. How's that? How's that for a New Year gift?
You need a pulpit and an audience. You need a TEDx.
11x. Okay. I'm 10% better. All right.
Love
Brian R. Johnson from Central Texas. Thanks for coming on the show, man. It's great catching up with you again.
I appreciate seeing you again, Wes. Thank you so much for having me on.
Yeah, man. Have a good one.
All right, brother. Cheers.